Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, and I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So tonight I've got a special episode of me unboxing my new printer. Yes, this is my new printer in case you didn't already know. So I'm going to switch my heater off at the moment for safety. Let's get that off. Switch that off. Right. Epsom. This is my new printer, right? Because my other one broke. It wouldn't print out anymore. So, look. This is my new printer. It's an Epsom EcoTank ET4856 to replace my 4750. So, this is a printer and scanner all in one. You can print from your mobile phone as well. And why is it so important? This is important for my writing work. So in case you're not familiar with my work, I write books for Asexuals. And these are some of my books. So this is Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Asexual Life, which was a bestseller last year when it came out. And this is my Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories book. And this, again, was a bestseller published in 2017. So I also write other books as well, but mostly for asexuals. And writing for asexuals is what we really need in the asexual community, because obviously I've got years of experience, and I started I started the channel in 2015, this channel. And in January 2015, I started doing asexual meetups. So it's actually my 10-year anniversary this month of, being in the asexual community and helping, if you like. So I really feeling so good about that right now. And my printer broke, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing my accounts in January for my self-employment stuff. Yes, you might be like, why did you leave it to the last minute? I'm a human being. I do procrastinate over some things. I had to move, and I could give you loads of reasons why I haven't done it. But anyway, I got most of the paperwork together, but I needed to print some more stuff off. So I needed to get a printer. But really importantly, if I'm to do my asexual books this year, which I've got 4 that I need to get out, I need to finish writing them, but I also need a printer to print them on that's very cost effective so that I can keep publishing books, because a lot of the time, the money that I plow into all the stuff I do for asexuals is my own money. That's what I'm using for the majority of it. And so it costs a lot of money for me to help asexuals, if you like. But I love helping asexuals. I love being on this channel. Hi, Dylan. Nice to see you in chat. And so I feel honoured that I've been in the asexual community now for 10 years. I found out I was asexual in 2014. So it's over 10 years since I've known asexual. No, I'm asexual, but I've been helping people since 2015, so it's really good. So it's important I get a new printer because my other one stopped working. And for writing books, I need to do loads and loads of editing and drafts and things like that. So it's important to be able to print stuff out. So I'm going to do an unboxing video of my new printer and then talk about why it's important to have books about asexuality and how they can help people. So this is my new printer I've got. Let me turn you around. This is absolutely amazing. I thought instead of pre-recording a video of me unboxing this beauty, I would actually do it in real time with you here. I know it's not usually done. People usually do unboxing videos and they edit them and they chop them all up. So I decided to do this one, but I'm going to have to put my phone over there on my laptop to be able to unpackage this. But as you can see, it's got loads of good stuff because I can print directly from my mobile, and it's a scanner as well, and it's really good. So you get these inks, which are actually ink bottles, and these are really cost effective because don't forget, my books are very long, a lot of them. Like this book here for asexuals is like over 450 pages. Do you know what I mean? We're going like to over 500 pages. You know what I'm talking about? So I'm a very thorough writer, and I write a lot of lengthy books. So I need to be able to have a good printer that's very cost effective on inks, and this is. So it comes with inks, and it prints really well from these bottles of ink. These are much more cost effective than the cartridges. They're a lot less expensive as well. And when you print out thousands of pieces of paper, then you need to be able to have something cost effective. So I'm really looking forward to unboxing this. This is a newer model to replace my old one that doesn't work anymore. And I thought, what better time to get it than in January when it's actually got like sales on. So I'm going to spin you around now, and I'm hoping I've got the camera at the right angle, because I haven't done an unboxing video in my bedroom before here. So I'm going to be back on camera now. So here we go. So can you see this box? I think you can. I think I've positioned it well enough, yeah? So I'm going to be unboxing this, and unfortunately I don't have scissors here because I didn't bring any. Try and rip it open with my hands, which is interesting. Like, I don't know what you're like, but when I wrap Christmas presents or birthday presents up for people, I'm really thorough with the sellotape, and I'm that thorough that most people can't get into them. So I'm now like being paid back, I guess, for the fact that I can't get into the box because I haven't got any scissors here. I might actually have to go off and get some scissors live. But anyway, if you notice, I've still got my Christmas tree up. Anyway, I managed to do it without the scissors. Woohoo! Lovely job. So yeah, I can't see chat from here. So if I'm not answering you, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's literally I can't. The chat's right over there right now. So yeah, this is my beautiful EcoTank ET4856. And like, I'm unboxing this brand new printer live, because I thought, you know, it's nice to do it live for a change, isn't it? Look at this. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. My other one's black, actually. So look, it comes with inks. Not just one ink, but two black inks. This is absolutely incredible. Don't you just love these? It's like, wow. Super, super, super wow. You know, because ink's very expensive, but these bottles are really good. And this is what printer I'm going to use to publish more books, right? So more books for asexuals. So I always get excited when I've got a new toy. It's not really a toy, is it? But you know what I mean? It's a new thing. I always get excited for new gifts. The best gifts you can do are give gifts to yourself, because when you give gifts to yourself, it means you're saying that you're worthy. That you're... Oh, sorry. I'll put it back over here. I forget I'm on camera. So yeah, it's got polystyrene. I'm taking the polystyrene off now. So, another one. So, yeah, when you give yourself gifts and you buy yourself something for your passion, writing's my hugest passion and joy. I find it very therapeutic, as well as it's just great to spread the word about asexuality. When you're giving gifts to yourself, it just makes yourself feel loved, you know. And I consider this printer, although it's an essential business item, it's also like a beautiful gift to myself. So we've got the inks in here as well. So I'm not going to put all this together in front of you because it will take ages and that'll probably get a bit boring. But I wanted to unbox it in front of you because I thought it's really important that you see my new printer. So it's in polystyrene in here. And I don't want to drop it because I dropped my last one, and that's why I had problems with it. I dropped it because I was moving it. So I don't want to move it so much for the camera that I end up actually dropping it. So yeah, it's more important I have it in one working piece. At the moment, that's now in front of my door, and I can't get out of my door to my bedroom. But I wanted to show you what it looks like from the front. So that's what it looks like from the front. Obviously, once I've taken the tape off, this bit here is the paper feeder. And then you lift the lid up to scan things to photocopy. Or you can feed them in the top here. I don't know if you can see that. But these ink balls are really good because they fit in the front. So this here is like an ink container at the front. So I'm not going to, like I said, do the full thing because otherwise... So I've noticed one black ink. There's two black inks. There's a blue ink in the box. There's a yellow ink. And there's a magenta, otherwise known as CYMK ink. So you get all these inks in the box. 5 of them. So a lot of inks, people. So it comes with inks already. But these bottles of inks are a lot more efficient in terms of cost. You know, they're a lot more easy to use as well. You just tip them up and pull them in. So they're really good. But this is a different colour to my other one, because my other one, my old one, is black, and this is a new upgraded model. So the actual inks go in the front here. That's how they go in. They go in the front. But I need to go through all the instructions on here, but I just wanted to show you where they go. So I don't want to get it damaged because I've got to put it in the other room. But the paper goes in here, and the inks go in here. But this is going in my office in the lounge, which I'm not in at the moment, in my bedroom. So if I start taking this tape off, it could get it damaged. And years ago, because I was moving my other one from one part of my bedroom to another, it actually dropped. I think it fell off the bed when I rested it on the edge of the bed. I didn't realise. So I don't want to break this. It's a brand new model. So I'm not going to do the whole like setup or anything here. But I just wanted to show you, because for me, this is really amazing. Like, as a writer of asexuality books, and I publish under my own registered book publishing imprint. It's registered in the UK under Quirky Books. To me, the fact I've even got my own book publishing imprint is like a dream come true. And the fact that my asexual books are bestsellers is like a dream come true. And the fact I got a new printer to start 2025 off, it's just incredible, you know, because my other printer's been playing up for a long time since I dropped it years ago. And it's like 6 years old, but it's completely stopped working. It won't paper feed anymore. And I've tried to clean it, and I tried to like upgrade the firmware and done all that, but it doesn't work. So time to get a new one. Dropping it didn't help. It's had a problem with paper feeding for years. But obviously it was my fault I dropped it, but it was an accident. So I've had to like do a lot with the paper feeding and unjam it and push the paper. And I even had a wedge to keep the paper in, which is not what you're supposed to do. But it was working fine until I dropped it years ago. So I don't want to drop this one. So I'm not going to take all the tape off now, because things will start falling out. But I just wanted to show you it because I'm really excited, and I wanted you to experience the excitement with me of getting this, because I just feel so good, you know. It's just so wonderful to have this printer and to think of the tons of books that it's going to be, you know, printing out for me. You know, obviously it won't be the final book because I use Amazon to print, and I just like do a lot of drafts. So usually I do a lot of editing of my books, so it requires printing a lot of manuscripts out, you know, before the final book goes live. And so I need something really cost effective, and for me these are good because they print out a lot of copies. Bear in mind, my books, you know, a lot of my books are lengthy, so if I'm printing out one book, for example, just one draft, that's like, for example, Asexual Perspectives is over 550 pages. And most packs of paper only come with 500 like sheets in them, for example. So I'm using a whole pack of paper just on one book, and that's just one draft. I can do a number of drafts on these books. So for me, you know, to be able to print thousands of copies at very low cost in terms of ink, which is what these eco tanks do, is just incredible. It means that I'm able to, you know, have something that will aid my writing for the next few years to come. It actually comes with a 5-year guarantee, although I've got to register it. So I'll be set up for 5 years now. I'm hugging this print like it's my baby, because I've not got kids. I don't want real kids, but like, anything to do with writing is sort of like a kid to me. It's like I'm married to my writing, and the printer is our little baby. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm married to my writing. I don't want to be married to a human being, but I'm married to my writing, and the printer is like our little baby. So yeah, I find that really hilarious. So I'm hugging it because I'm thinking of all the beautiful books that this is going to print out, and all the bestsellers to come, and all the books that are going to be spread globally to the world, the asexuality books. And for me, that's just pure bliss and pleasure, you know. It's just really, really exciting. I love writing. It's my hugest passion in my life, followed very closely by helping asexuals. And so to combine asexuality with writing books for asexuals is just sensational. So I'm really grateful and thankful to the universe, the powers that be, for allowing me to have the money to pay for this, because it wasn't cheap. Like, the printer itself is really expensive, but the inks are inexpensive. So you're paying a lot of money up front for this. I mean, this was on offer. You know, I got an extra bit of money off it as well. So it's the least expensive that I could find it. And, you know, it's good because I've got it quickly because my other printer stopped working. But I just know that it's an investment worth it. Sometimes you have to invest in yourself in order to get the best out of life. So sometimes you have to pay a lot for something that's going to see you through for the next few years. It's more cost effective, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm really, really thrilled. I want to like cuddle it and hug it. Have you ever had that? Have you ever wanted to just cuddle your own like items and get a bit attached to them and, you know, feel like a bond with your items? Do you have that at all? Because I think it's a thing that some people do have, but they don't usually admit it. You know, they don't usually go on YouTube and say, hey, I'm cuddling my new printer and this is my little baby. I don't think that happens usually, but I feel very blessed to have this right now. And for me, this is exciting because it means more books are to come, more writings to come. And also I shouldn't have to keep unjamming the paper because this new printer should work so much more effectively. So for me, this just means it's an amazing time to look forward to for the rest of the year. 2025 in January, this is getting off to a really good start for me. And it's something I welcome with open arms. You know, I'm so excited to have a new printer and to think of all the beautiful pages that are going to come out, all the beautiful stories, real life stories usually that are going to happen. Although I do like writing children's picture books. I have written some years ago, but I haven't published them yet. So in the future, I would like to get them out. They're very cute. And so all the books, but I specialise in non-fiction and writing from personal experience to help others, which is so important. I think it's so different when you're actually writing from your own personal experience and you're reading books from people's personal experience rather than just someone who's writing a theory about something when they don't really understand the nitty-gritty of it. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I think I've held it quite a lot now. So, oops, there, you even fell over. Oh gosh, that was interesting, wasn't it? I love it. Anyway, I need to get some water. So, I haven't actually read all the comments because I've been busy. I can't see my phone for that long, that distance, I should say. So, oh, jump scare. Oh, it's funny. Anyway, so why is it so important to write books for asexuals? So the reason why it's so important to have asexual books and write books for asexuals is because asexuality is very misunderstood. It's a term that people are not that familiar with in general society. And it's very, very rare that the majority of sexuals know what asexuality is. A lot of people haven't heard of it. So just to give you a heads up about what asexuality is and isn't, asexuality is a sexual orientation that's based on the lack of sexual attraction. And what this means is, for me personally, and as a general rule, with a lack of sexual attraction, it means you don't get the need, urge, or want for partner's sexual intercourse. So yes, there are people like me in the world, actually thousands of us, but most people aren't out about being asexual. And we don't want, like, or need sex in the main if we're a pure asexual. But asexuality is a spectrum of identities, ranging from those who are pure asexual, who don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, to those people who are on the grey end of the asexual spectrum, or sexual end. So they're not pure asexuals, they have grey areas. So for them, they only experience sexual attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or they experience it but not enough to want to act on it, or they feel they're in between asexual and sexual, so they don't quite fit in. So I hope that's given you like a broad understanding of it. But there's myths, like asexuality is not the same as celibacy. Loads of people think celibacy is the same as asexuality, and it really isn't. Abstaining and celibacy are choices. Asexuality is not a choice. It's a sexual orientation that the majority of people are born with, but don't realise it till later in life. And looking back in my past, I can see it's obvious I was asexual, but didn't realize it, you know, when I'm with a boyfriend, and it never entered my head that he might want sex with me. So asexuality be normal, not weird. So asexuality is normal for some people, absolutely. It's normal for some people to be asexual and not like want or need sex. This is a normal part of some people's makeup. It's a way people are wired. And every asexual person is different. Some asexuals don't like any touching whatsoever. Some are touch averse. Some asexuals just like a little bit of touching, like a pat on the shoulder. Some asexuals love cuddling, but they don't like sex. Some asexuals like to do sexual touching, but they don't like intercourse. And so there's a wide variety of asexuals. There are sex repulsed asexuals. I'm a personally sex repulsed asexual for me these days. And I don't mind others that like sex, want it, need it, enjoy it. It's consensual, everyone's happy. But I'm not interested in it. I don't want to be involved in it, and I don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. So I never look at a guy. I'm only attracted to guys, but I never look at them and think, oh, I want sex with them. It just doesn't happen in my head. I don't think that way. Even if I'm kissing them and I think they're really hot aesthetically looking, and I think they're absolutely fantastic, you know. So some of the other myths and stereotypes. So asexuality is not a result of trauma. Whether someone's asexual, they're not asexual, they can have trauma in their life. Not every asexual's had trauma, you know, like a traumatic sexual experience, for example. A lot of asexuals haven't even had sex. And a lot of asexuals just know they don't want to try sex, whereas other asexuals have had sex. Having sex or not having sex doesn't make someone asexual. It's the lack of sexual attraction and or little to no interest in sexual activities that defines someone being asexual. Asexuality is not that you're being frigid. Asexuality is not that you can't get laid or get a date, because many asexuals can get dates or get laid if other people would be allowed by them to lay them, you know, have sex with them. But obviously a lot of asexuals don't want sex. That's kind of the whole point. And asexuality is a big spectrum. Like I said, I narrowed it down very succinctly between pure asexuals and grey asexuals, but there are many areas in between, and some asexuals are romantic, some are not romantic. So why is it important to have books about asexuality and asexuals? It's important to have these books because a lot of people are misinformed about asexuality. They don't understand what it is. And also people can engage with the books and understand their own sexuality and more about the different types of attractions and the way they feel and think about someone just by learning about asexuality. Even if they're not asexual, they can get a lot of insights. For example, some of the comments I've got with my asexual books is it's helped them to understand the psychology of relationships, even though they're not asexual. It's helped them to understand asexuality in people. So if, for example, you've got a job that works with children, particularly at school and things like that, you might see some signs that someone might be asexual, but they might be afraid of opening up and talking to the other members of the class, other students, because they're different. And if you're a teacher and you understand asexuality, you might be able to understand the difficulties that a student might have being asexual in a school full of predominantly heterosexual people, for example. So if you're a counselor or a doctor or a therapist or anyone dealing with the public, even if you're in a work situation, if you're there making really sexual comments and thinking it's hilarious to have sexual innuendo and you're not thinking anything of it, and you're seeing people's eyebrows raise, you're seeing people look like, I'm really not interested in this, people looking disgusted at you, people like really shying away from you, people like walking out the room and stuff when you're talking about that, it might be because you are talking in the presence of an asexual person. So if that's true, then you need to be considerate of that person and you need to understand them, because it will help foster a good communication and a working relationship between you and the asexual person. Just like in work nowadays, there's a lot of policy around equality and diversity. Asexuality, in case you didn't know, is part of the LGBT plus QIA community, right? So a lot of employers these days follow equality and diversity, which means learning about LGBT plus QIA issues and people and the difficulties they might experience in their work, in their school, in their university, for example. And so that's why it's so important to learn about asexuality, so that if you go for a job yourself and the employer supports equality and diversity, particularly if they're LGBT plus friendly or supportive of pride stuff, particularly, then the more you understand about asexuality and how that works in the acronym as well, the more you'll be ahead of those other people that might be applying for that job as well. Because if they're applying for that job and they're applying for equality and diversity and you don't understand about these issues, you might have less chance of getting it, the job that is. Also, you might have a family member or friend or relative, or like I said, a work colleague or a student that you know, like maybe you're still at uni or whatever. And if you learn about these things, you can understand other people better, because we all live in the same world at the end of the day. And it's important that we understand each other and communicate effectively to foster loving, peaceful, harmonious relationships where we accept each other. And so this is important, right? 1 out of 100 people are usually asexual, because 1% of the population, recorded 1% of the population in a study years ago, is asexual. So you might have a relative, a friend, a family member, someone you know that's asexual. And a lot of people aren't out about being asexual, but you can pick up different signs they might be asexual: when they shy away from sex, when they don't want to be in the room when you're talking about sex. Like I gave in the work example. If people are talking about sex at work, if people are using sexual banter, sexual innuendos, it might make them very, very uncomfortable. So someone's asking me, how are you doing today? I'm really happy about my printer. So I'm doing better, actually. I'm feeling a lot happier than I was a few days ago. I had difficulty with my mental health recently. So yeah, I feel more at peace and at one and happy with myself. Thank you for the question. And I'm excited to get a new printer as well. That's really good, because it helps excite me about the year ahead more when I've got something fresh to do with my writing. Because when we are like unleashing our creativity, as it were, in however we want to do that, and when we're fulfilling our destiny and our passions and our dreams, then it does make us feel a whole lot better. So the fact that I've got a new printer, it just solidifies the fact that I'm going to be printing a lot of manuscripts, because I'm going to be publishing a lot of books, I should say. I got 4 asexual books that I need to finish and publish. All 4 of them are highly worked on. They've got the end parts, apart from one is neat. Yeah, they got basically the end parts and a bit of editing to do. Some of them have got quite a bit more, and some of them have got less to do. So yeah. And knowing about asexuality is a huge advantage then, like I said, because there are going to be people in your life that are going to be asexual, most likely, or people you come across. It could be a concert, it could be when you're at a comedy club, it could be when you're at a social event, right? And so if you see people kind of like shying away from you and getting weird about sex and stuff, it might be because they're asexual. And this is really important if you're dating as well, because maybe you're a highly sexual person and you need sex, but you automatically assume that every person on dating sites is a heterosexual, right? Or a sexual person. And that is wrong, because there are some people that are on these dating sites that are asexual, right? But if you really, really want sex, you and that other person is going to be wasting their time if they're a sex repulsed asexual that's monogamous, that doesn't want their partner to have sex outside the relationship, and that wants monogamy from the sexual person. If you really love sex and they don't want to give that to you and they're monogamous, then there's no point to continuing that connection on a dating app. It's better to be very upfront and say, what sexual orientation are you? Don't assume that everyone is heterosexual. Some asexuals, they don't put their asexual on dating sites because there's not a specific category for asexuality. And so they might say they're heterosexual, even though they're not, because there's not a category for us on a lot of dating sites, although Badoo's got a asexual category. So instead of assuming everyone on dating sites is heterosexual, why not actually clarify how they are, how relationships are for them? Why not ask them, like, how does a relationship work for you? How do you see it? it happening in everyday life. What's the most important thing about a relationship to you? What's the most attractive thing in a person? Right? A lot of asexuals will pick personality over attraction. They will pick looks. If they're aesthetically attracted, they'll pick looks over a physical attraction. A lot of asexuals will pick up on other things than the sexual stuff because they'll be attracted to you by other means. So when you read asexual books, you're getting insights. If you're reading the right books, you're not just getting some book that ChatGPT has made up, right? Because that can be wrong. If you're getting books that have been created, written by actual asexual people, then you're getting the insights and knowledge you need on how asexuality is. Obviously, every asexual is different, so it's good to read a variety of books to get different advice and insights. That's why I wrote my Asexual Perspectives book, if I just grab it, because this is 47 different asexual stories. So this gives you not just my perspective of asexuality, but 46 others. So Darina says 1% of the population, but OkCupid was empty. Yeah, not everyone's on OkCupid. Also, OkCupid is part of a bigger network of Cupid sites. If you didn't know that already, it's quite deceptive, because when I was on OkCupid, they have an asexual Cupid, for example. OkCupid is like the main site, but I was thinking of asexual Cupid. So asexual Cupid is meant to be the asexual equivalent of OkCupid. OkCupid is in general a heterosexual dating app, or used to be, but Asexual Cupid is the asexual version of that. But because it's owned by OkCupid, you still get a lot of people on there that might not be asexual. But also you get adverts on OkCupid, on Asexual Cupid, that make it look like they're people on the site, but actually they take you off the site to OkCupid. So you've got OkCupid and you've got Asexual Cupid. They're owned by the same company, the OkCupid company, basically. And a lot of dating apps these days are owned by different people. So Badoo is owned by Badoo's like part of the same company as can't remember what it's called. There's a I can't even remember what it's called anymore, but because I don't use dating apps actively anymore. But I'm still on Badoo, but I'm not active on there. But there's a dating app where you can go on it and women can approach men first. And so that's part of the same company as Badoo. But in terms of Badoo, they still have an asexual category, but you can't actually search for asexuals. But when I was active on Badoo, I came across, was it at least 7? So either 7 or 9 asexual people. Well, people on the asexual spectrum. At least 7 anyway. So that guys I was interested in, because I don't know how many female are on there, because I wasn't looking for females. But they were all on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum. So they were no good for me. Or they smoked, or both. And I'm not interested in a guy who smokes. So yeah, one of them was in Plymouth, not far from me. I think one of them was in my city as well. They have a beard and smokes. I'm not interested. I can't be with a smoker. So yeah, it's very interesting. So there are some people, but most of the guys I talk to as well, they're interested in sex, even though they're asexual, because they're on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum. So it wasn't, Darina said just some fakes. Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, you do get fake profiles, sadly, over everywhere, over all the dating sites. They have some fake profiles, but they also have some people who create multiple profiles. When I was active on Badoo, I had a British guy who's actually, excuse me, I'll just talk, in this book, I talk about this guy in this book. I don't use his name, but I talk about this guy in this book. And when I talk about him, he's a British guy, right? But he kept coming back under different profiles and kept reliking it when we'd already established we weren't suitable, because he loves sex and I'm asexual and don't want sex. So that was just really bizarre. So some of them, they do create multiple accounts, but you know it's a bit dodgy when they're doing that anyway. If they can't even get someone under one account, what makes them think they're going to get someone under multiple accounts? I knew it was the same person because he had the same picture. He had new pictures, but also the same pictures. And also he kept coming in my inbox as well, loads of different profiles. And I'm like, what's the point? So yeah, unfortunately you get fakes everywhere. But that's why it's important, if you get a book about asexuality, that you get it from someone who's actually asexual, because with AI technology coming out now, there's people that are creating books about all sorts of topics that they don't have any actual first-hand experience of themselves. And how do I know this? Because I attended an actual online course, and this particular company specializes in teaching people how to publish books on Amazon, and they got a whole system of AI technology. And some of these books they're doing, in the actual text of the book, they're saying, oh, I was always interested in blah 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 since I was like 5 years old or something. It's a topic that's really dear to my heart, and I'm going to share with you now what I achieved with this thing. You know what I mean? And it's just lies. It's like and they say they had no knowledge of it, so they just asked AI. It wasn't to do with asexuality, it was to do with something else. But my point is you should be learning about asexuality from people who are actually asexual, who live an asexual life because they're asexual, who are sharing their genuine experiences with you, not something that a bot has made up that you don't know if it's real or it's not. Right? And people that are just like writing books for pure profit, you don't want to be going down that route. Right? You want to look, has the person got a YouTube channel, for example, talking about asexuality? Have they got a TikTok if they haven't got YouTube, or vice versa? I just got YouTube, not TikTok, because I love the YouTube platform and I love it on here. And I've heard that TikTok could be banned. Probably not going to be, I'm guessing. But, I haven't done TikTok because I want to devote my time to YouTube, because I love being on YouTube. It's like my home and I do well on here. So, and I can only do so much social media, but I've got YouTube, I'm on Instagram, and Facebook, and X, and LinkedIn. That's like 5. So when someone writes a book, check them out. Try and find them online to see if they've got a history of asexuality. If they haven't got a history of being asexual themselves, they're probably not going to know about asexuality. They're just going to have made up some bull from getting an AI bot. So learn from people who actually are asexual. It doesn't mean to say that the people that are asexual haven't got AI helping them to write the book from their own personal experience, which might become quite common. But if it's just some AI bot making the whole thing up and they don't have experience, then it's no good. I noticed there's one book on Amazon, I think, that just by the description is an AI written book about asexuality, because it's not got very good reviews. And the way the description is, it's like a bot's done it, not a real human being. So always beware of those type of things, and learn from people who've actually got social media accounts talking about asexuality, because those are the best types of people to learn from, because you pretty much know they're genuine. Although there are people that disappear from the asexual scene. There was one person who was a YouTuber years ago. She had loads of subscribers, right? More than me. And one day, after at least 5 years, I think it was, being on YouTube, she literally just took all her videos off and disappeared. And that was it. And I come from a place of, I'm asexual and genuinely want to help asexuals for a long, long time. For the rest of my life, as far as I am aware, I want to always talk about asexuality. I want to always be helping asexuals. And I wouldn't just take my channel down like that. It's ridiculous. So I think that's really shocking. But some people, they do talk about asexuality for the wrong reasons. They're talking about it like it's a topic they're interested in at the time, and then they go off it or whatever. For me, asexuality is really important. It's not to say that those people shouldn't do what they need to do for their own life, but I just prefer to follow asexuals that have been online for a long time, for example. And I've been on this channel now since 2015, so this is my 10-year anniversary. It was October 2015 I started doing this channel, but January 2015 I started actually helping asexuals with organising meetups and attending meetups. So I feel very honoured and blessed, and writing about asexuality helps to fulfil my mission, which is getting asexuality recognised as a sexual orientation throughout the globe, so that no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. My mission is to create harmony between asexuals and sexuals, for example, so that we can foster understanding between both parties, so we can all live in harmony together. At the end of the day, love is love, whether it comes in a non-sexual form or a sexual form. And people who are sexual, I would encourage you to learn more about asexuality, to understand your own sexuality more, because asexuality is very interesting. For example, in my Asexuality book, which is the first book I need to finish this year and publish, this is an asexual guide to asexuality. Well, understanding asexuality, attraction, the asexual spectrum, because there's so many people not understanding that if someone, for example, arouses you, that is in and of itself, as a blanket statement, is not sexual attraction. Someone could arouse you without you being sexually attracted to them, right? So people I've heard comment on this channel going, oh, if you're aroused when you're kissing someone, that's sexual attraction. It's not. It's a physiological response. You could be sexually attracted to someone while you're kissing them, but just because you kiss them and get aroused doesn't mean to say that it's necessarily to do with sexual attraction. You could be aroused by the kissing in and of itself, for example, or a physical touch, or even a mental stimulation. Depends what type of person you are. So sexual desire is different to sexual attraction. The fact that sexual desire is really desiring the sex in and of itself and acting on that because of a pure drive for sex. Whereas when you're sexually attracted to someone, you might not act on that attraction. You might feel the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse in that moment. Like, I really would like to have sex with that person because I find them really sexually attractive. But you're not driven like sexual desire drives you. Although people do share their own perspectives about the difference between between their different asexual lives, if you know what I mean. So they share their own perspective on arousal, sexual attraction, and sexual desire, and what the differences are between the three. So do get a copy of Asexual Perspectives. I've got an interview coming out as well this next week coming, which is from someone in my book called 5 Mark 2N. We're talking about asexuality. It's going to be a premiere. It's quite a long interview, and I'm sure you're going to love it. It's 5 Mark 2N is in this book. That's the alias name of this person. So, and they're not on camera, just their voices, because they wanted to remain anonymous. But it's a really, really interesting show because this is coming up on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. This will be on January 2025, so it's this coming week. And they are having different views to me about something. So it's very, very interesting to see a different perspective. Obviously, their perspectives in this book, but I'm diving more into their personal story and what's changed for them in 10 years, because it's their 10-year anniversary. So it's a special episode for them of 10-year anniversary of knowing they're asexual, right? Actually knowing about it. So on the 15th of January, that's when I'm doing the video. That's when it's going to be put out. We've already recorded it. So it's a very special episode. I hope you'll join me for that, you know, and dive more into the answers in the book. So, for example, I'm fiercely monogamous in the book, and they talk about this is how if they did have a relationship, they could have a relationship where their asexual partner got their sexual needs met elsewhere, which I could never do, right? Because I'm fiercely monogamous. But it's a really interesting conversation because their perspective is completely different to mine. So that's what makes it quite interesting. And so, yeah, it's very, very good. Don't miss that. And so that's one of the beauties of these books that I write, is because especially when I interview different asexuals, people can get different perspectives, like in this one, which means there's usually someone relatable in the book for different types of asexuals on the spectrum. I mean, this book was written with the asexual spectrum in mind, but it doesn't cover every single subcategory of asexuality. I mean, it would go on for ages. I think there's at least probably about 200 subcategories or something, and there's new categories coming out all the time, subcategories, I should say. So, you know, it doesn't go into every single asexual category or subcategory, I should say, but it does dive into lots of different types of perspectives from asexuals around different parts of the world and in different circumstances. Some asexuals are in relationships with sexuals, and you can see the dynamic of how that works. There's an asexual, at least one asexual person who's in a relationship with another asexual. There's an asexual person who's with a bisexual person. They don't have sex. And there's asexual people who are like, I'll never have sex. And some that might be open to it. And some that are single. And some that have had not great experiences because, you know, they never wanted sex in the first place. And this is a really insightful book. It dives deep into like what it feels like to be asexual in terms of, relationships, and it dives deep into asking asexuals nitty-gritty questions like, what do you think of porn, BDSM, and kinks? Because there is a stereotype where people believe that no asexuals would ever watch porn, because if they're not sexually attracted, for example, how could they ever watch porn? But some asexuals do watch porn despite the fact they don't experience sexual attraction, or they could be on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum, which that type of thing would be a lot more common for. But there are people in this book that for example, masturbate, and they don't experience sexual attraction towards anyone, but they get aroused maybe and release that arousal through masturbation. So it's a really interesting, insightful book. And to be able to bring these types of books out into the world helps to dispel the myths of asexuality, what it is and what it isn't. It helps people to see asexuality from real life context. That's what I love about this book, is it's not just getting stuff off the internet and copy and pasting it, right? It's real life asexual stories, and it's answering all the questions you could possibly think of usually when you're first discovering asexuality. And so therefore all the burning questions you've got are in this book. And so by having a comprehensive guide to asexuality and all the things you're likely to come across when you're new to asexuality, if you want to dive deeper into the asexual spectrum, it's all in here in a book. So this just cuts down your learning time by years. Some people spend years researching this stuff. Some people spend hours going from page to page on the internet scrolling. Whereas when you have it all comprehensively written in a book, you can just go to that book and get loads and loads of answers that you need in one place for very little cost, when you think about the amount of valuable information and insights and education we get about asexuality with non-fiction books, particularly I specialize in. There's a market for books written by asexuals that have asexual characters that are fictional. And the benefit of that is people are getting asexuality out there, although it's told through fictional characters, it's still getting the word about asexuality out there and helping people to understand the dynamics in relationships with asexuals. So that still helps people to understand more about asexuality. However, there are some people who write books that are fiction, and they're asexual people writing those books, which I would highly recommend you get those, because they're told from the perspectives of an actual asexual person or someone who's in the asexual community that understands different asexual perspectives and dynamics. Whereas there's some other people that write books for asexuals that don't even have first-hand knowledge of asexuality because they're not asexual. I'm not saying those books aren't valid as well, but I think, when they're doing research and stuff, but I think it's so much better buying books, if you're going to buy fictional books about asexuality, with asexual characters, I think it's much better to get them from asexual people who've written those things rather than people who are not asexual, because you'll get a much more deeper insight into the dynamics of relationships, which will help improve your knowledge of asexuality. And then if you come across an asexual in person, you'll be more likely to be more understanding. Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's so important to have asexual books, especially written by asexuals. Plus, people pour their heart and soul into their books, It's nice to support them, isn't it? And it's nice to people support cookery books and they get photography books or they get murder mystery books or whatever. It's important to actually get something that's worthwhile reading, that has a real genuine bearing on real life and real life relationships and dynamics. And so that's why it's so important to read asexual books. And one of the reviews I got from this book, which was a person, or I should say by a person who isn't asexual, they said that this is, although it looks like a book about romance and dating, or they say something like this, they said actually there's a lot of psychology about relationships in this book, this Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual book. And that's good, because if you start to understand more about the psychology of relationships, then you can understand people better, whether you're asexual or not. And understanding people better and how they react and how they work and how they think gives you a deeper sense of relational intelligence, which can help you in different types of situations with different types of people. The more we can all hone our relational intelligence, the better we can be at understanding other people, of having empathy for other people, of being able to put yourself in the shoes of other people, and being able to set boundaries and be assertive in a way that should be effective more with the other person, right? Or maybe you don't set boundaries and you're not assertive about anything, right? So if you get to understand other people and the psychology behind things, and you realize how important it is to set boundaries, because people are different, and and everyone's valid, everyone has to set their own boundaries, don't they, in terms of what's healthy for them and what's not. And so being relationally intelligent can help with that. And if you've got like a brother or sister or cousin or aunt or uncle that's asexual, it can really, really help you to get asexual books, because then you can foster more understanding towards them. And if they're feeling down or lonely or left out, you'll be able to, able to talk to them and empathize with them. And you can also point these types of books out. They could be mine or they could be other people's. Point out the fact they got asexual books, and maybe they can get a book when they didn't have one before. It's also important to get asexual things, because the more things that we sell that's asexual, the more we normalize asexuality. Because the fact there's loads of books out now, well, maybe loads is a bit of an exaggeration, but the fact there's quite a lot of asexual books out now means that it's becoming more and more acceptable in society, means that we're spreading the word more about asexuality, so we can stop people living in fear of coming out as being asexual. Because the more people that know about asexuality, the more it becomes normal in everyday life, the more people don't have to feel scared to come out as who they are, because they can live in more peace and harmony, knowing that other people understand that asexuality is just normal for some people. There's nothing wrong with it. And that's a really good thing. And if you are a person who's coming out to someone about your asexuality, it's good to be able to have supportive evidence of other people who are asexual. So when the person turns around and goes, oh, that's not a real thing, or you're just going through a phase, or you don't know what you're talking about, you can point them to an asexual book like mine, for example, and you can say, hey, look, there's 47 asexuals in this book alone, this one book. Therefore, asexuality is real. It really exists. These are 47 real asexual stories. So if you don't believe asexuality is true, read the book. And also, there's merchandise for asexuals. I have my own Asexualise shop on Redbubble. Just go to redbubble/shop/asexualise. I have my own Asexualise merch on Amazon. If there wasn't real asexuals, if they didn't exist, then we wouldn't be able to create these products for people to buy, because we wouldn't understand about asexuality. And there wouldn't be a market for it, but there is, because people are asexual. They've got family or friends that are asexual. Some counsellors and therapists need to know about asexuality. I say everyone needs to know about asexuality. But the ones that work, for example, specifically with LGBT plus people, and asexuality is part of the LGBT plus acronym, they really need to understand asexuality, because they probably have a lot more asexuals going to them. But everyone should know it. All doctors should understand it. I've heard some asexuals really appalled. For example, they get asked to go for smear tests, right? This is very personal. I'm not going to divulge who talks about this, but there's one person particularly I'm friends with who puts it publicly on their Facebook. I'm not sure if they've got their whole Facebook on public, but all their friends can see it. And they talk about a smear test, right? Well, there's more than one asexual person I'm friends with that have talked about smear tests. And some of the doctors, they haven't believed they're asexual. When they talk about being asexual, like, oh, well, I'm asexual, so I'm not having sex, right? So I don't need the smear test, for example. Or maybe they're a virgin and still having to have a smear test. The smear test is usually to test for cervical cancer, usually because you've had sex, right? And so I've seen a couple of my asexual friends that have actually said that they've experienced not very nice, pleasant things with a doctor who didn't believe they're asexual, or asking them like intrusive questions about it. But whenever I've talked about asexuality to a doctor or something, I just tell them, I'm just like, well, I'm asexual, I don't have sex. If I'm poorly, some of them go, are you pregnant? I'm like, no, I don't have sex. I haven't had sex since 2011. And now we're into 2025. That's like 14 years ago. But you know what I mean? It's like, I don't have sex, so I'm not going to be pregnant, right? I can still be pregnant. I don't want to get pregnant, but you know what I mean? I'm not interested in that. I don't want kids ever. So my point being as well is asexual perspectives can be quite a lot different. There's some asexuals that are not interested in children because sex is involved, or they're just not interested in that type of thing. A lot of asexuals can be very unconventional, but there are a proportion of asexuals that do still want to get married. There are some asexuals that do still want kids, even by natural means. There are some asexuals that love being in relationships with sexuals, right? But only by reading asexual books can you understand how these dynamics work out. Like, what are the practical steps involved for making that type of relationship work? Hello from France in chat. So in this book, there's a person who is asexual and they're with a heterosexual, and they explain how that works in terms of having sex. This particular person negotiates a time when they have sex, so they might do it less frequently than their sexual partner would like, but they're still doing it for their sexual partner. So I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with the fact that they're doing it for their sexual partner, but you know, that's the whole point. These are different asexual perspectives. They're not all the same as mine. That's the whole point of it. And I think this gives a very balanced view of asexuality and the ins and outs of it. And I like to talk about asexuality in real life contexts, just like I like to do on this channel when I show you different aspects of my asexual life. I like to show that throughout my books, so that it's not just giving textbook definitions of asexuality, it's diving deep into the mindset behind asexuality, into how asexuals think and feel differently when it comes to, for example, dating and relationships. It can be just a friendship, which is huge to asexuals, you know, so it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Some asexuals are romantic and some asexuals are non-romantic, and it's important people know that there's those two different types of asexuals and variations of that. Some are a little bit romantic, some are like me. Well, I'll just say one person I know myself is a hyper romantic asexual. That's why I wrote this book, because it's quite unique, but it does dive into the psychology of sexuals in this. And if you're asexual, it helps you to decipher text messages so you can actually see what a sexual person writes to you and what they actually mean, which will help you hugely in dating if you get this book. It's also an insightful read because it's autobiographical. It's like behind the scenes of this channel. So what I like to do in my books is to, like I said, not give textbook definitions of asexuality, but to put asexuality into real life context so people can understand in a relatable way how asexuality pans out in real life. And that's what I like to do on this channel, share the ups and downs of asexual life, the joys, the difficulties, the struggles, so you can see asexuality in a real life context or contextual situation, so that you're able to use my experience, if you like, to navigate your asexual life and journey. Obviously, there are people who watch this channel that aren't asexual, but I believe by showing my own asexual life journey, I can help anyone in their own life journey by the lessons I uncover and share in these videos. You don't have to be asexual to watch this channel. In fact, people who are allies, people who support asexuals or want to understand asexuality more, you're very, very welcome on this channel. And that's why channels and books about asexuality are so important, so people who are not asexual as well can understand asexuality and how it works differently. Because I have a lot of sexuals, for example, who say to me, if I kiss them, they're like, oh, not at the same time, I'm not going around kissing loads of sexuals, but say I had a date with a sexual person, a heterosexual, and they don't understand why I can kiss for long periods of time and never want sex. It's because I don't feel that way. I don't think that way. I don't have a wiring in me that says kissing means sex. It doesn't to me. Kissing is pleasurable in and of itself, and I never have a need for sex when I kiss, because I love the kissing in and of itself. I'm not interested in male genitalia or any genitalia. If I was interested in genitalia, it would be guys, because I'm not, you know, a lesbian. But I don't need to see the guy's genitalia, because that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the guy's face, his personality. I like the frame, this part here, on a guy. That's what I'm actually attracted to aesthetically, usually. Not every guy, just certain types of guys, younger foreign guys, usually, particularly Indian guys. And so that's what I look for, you know. And if a guy's smiling, he's got a nice, soft, gentle face. I'm not into beards, for example. And, you know, he's wearing nice clothes that suit him, then that's good. So, hello. Oh, did you say Miami? Hello to you. Yes, I have to say, if anyone's watching this live and they've seen the fires which the people in LA are going through at this point in time when I'm recording this live, that I'm really, really sorry if any of your family or friends or relatives or relations are going through the wildfires. Complete turmoil at the moment. I've got friends on Facebook, and I'm part of Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, and the Matthew Hussey team. Matthew Hussey's the world's #1 dating and relationship and confidence coach, basically. And most of his family and his team live in LA, and so it does impact them, and it impacts a lot of people on my Facebook friend list, you know, the fires. So some people lost their homes, their pets, belongings. Some people are not alive anymore. So I'm very grateful to be here right now with you, and I'm so sorry if you're experiencing the devastation, or you have people you know experiencing devastation over there. I have to just say that, even though it's got nothing to do with asexuality, I think it's really important to put that out there. So, and it's important because we're all one at the end of the day, in terms of we're all on this planet, you know, we're all here as human beings, and it's good to foster compassion and understanding towards each other, no matter what sexual orientation we are, no matter what color, no matter what race, no matter what ethnicity. It's really important that we spread love and kindness and generosity and caringness towards one another, because you only get one life and you want to live it the best you can, and live it in a compassion and caring state, not a hatred state, not a nasty state. And so there's people that are ignorant, for example, about asexuality. Instead of learning about it, like some people choose to do, they'll just stay ignorant, and they'll bring topics up, for example, on dating sites that are really inappropriate. You know, like asking an asexual person if they've ever had sex or not has got nothing to do with whether they're asexual or not. Someone who's asexual could have had sex. It doesn't mean to say they're not asexual. It's like a lesbian might have had sex with a guy at some point in their life, but it doesn't mean to say they're not still lesbian because they had that experience. So it's very important to understand what asexuality is and isn't. And asexuals are still attractive people. They're still people who other people would want sex with, usually. They are still having a kind, caring personality and attitude, you know, in general. I mean, obviously, some asexuals are not going to be good, just like some people in the world are not going to be good for any sexuality. But I'm saying just because someone's asexual doesn't mean to say they're cold, or doesn't mean to say they can't love. It doesn't mean to say that they don't have feelings and emotions just because if they're not interested in sex, because some asexuals do have sex, you know, because there's some myths where people think, oh, well, if a asexual person's not having sex, then how can they love someone in a relationship? But love is not the same as sex. Love is not the same as sex. Some people can have sex with loads of different people and never love those people. So love and sex are two completely different things that some people choose to put together and others don't. Right? So we have to understand that. And asexuals, can love through an emotional attraction. I need to grab water again. Through an emotional attraction, that's how we usually love. And so it's very important that you know that. And some people who, for example, are impotent really love the fact that asexuals exist, because if asexual didn't exist and they always came across people who needed sex and they can't get it up to have sex, for example, they would never be able to have a relationship. So asexual people can go well with people, for example, who can't have sex for whatever reason, but that's not the same as asexuality. Asexuality is not the same as having a disability that prevents you from having sex. Asexuality is not the same as impotency. Asexuality is a genuine sexual orientation. And as I mentioned earlier, asexuality is not the same as abstaining or celibacy. It's not someone stopping having sex for religious reasons. It's not someone sexually repressing or suppressing themselves either. Asexuality is not about suppressing or repressing things that you don't feel in the first place. So what did someone say in chat? SK, I felt the most confident when I wore a uniform. Okay, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And I don't know how that relates to asexuality. I don't know. Are you saying asexuality is like a uniform? I don't know, but I have to point out that I have had some people say they want to try being asexual. You can't try to be asexual. It's a sexual orientation. Like a heterosexual can't try to be gay. A bisexual person can't try to be straight. Right? You are what sexuality you are. And asexuality is not something you can just try on like a coat for size. It's not an experience. It's a genuine sexual orientation. Some people don't like being asexual and others do. Some people get scared that they're asexual because they think they'll get mocked. And other people, they just don't like being asexual. They think they cannot have a normal relationship. Maybe they grew up thinking they were going to have a normal, there's no such thing as normal, that's why I'm doing this, heterosexual relationship, for example. That's how they were conditioned to believe. And that's what they could do. That's what they were conditioned to believe, should I say. And that's how they saw their life. And maybe they really liked that idea. Maybe they really loved the fact that they were brought up as well to think that they were heterosexual, and they thought, oh, I'll have the sex, marriage and kids thing, I'll find the right person for me, settle down and live happily ever after. Well, a lot of people that are settled down aren't living happily ever after. I just point that out, whatever sexual orientation they are. And also, when they realize later on in life that it's going to be harder for them dating if they don't want sex, it's going to be harder for them to get a relationship with the majority of people in the world who are so sexually obsessed or needing sex as a basic need. For them, you can live without sex because it's not like food and drink that you have to have, right? So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you know about that, I believe sex is on there as a basic need, but you don't have to have sex to live and be happy. That's a complete myth, and you don't have to have sex in a relationship for the relationship to be healthy and happy. If you love sex, however, and that person, for example, hates sex, that's not going to be healthy for either of you. But it's not healthy for an asexual person, if someone doesn't like, want, or need sex, for example, to be in a relationship where they're being pressurized or felt under pressure to have sex when they don't want it. Because that's not healthy. A healthy relationship is respecting each other's needs and being comfortable in the relationship around that person. And if an asexual person is being made to feel bad that they don't give their sexual partner sex, then that isn't healthy. Right? A healthy relationship is when people are respectful of each other and can share their boundaries and their expectations and can see if they match. It's to do with compatibility. But like I said, there are some people who are impotent in this world. Not asexual, but impotent. I'm talking about impotency and asexuality is different, although some people who are asexual could be impotent. Some are. I know rare cases where they are, but it's not the same thing. So someone who's impotent, for example, they usually have a drive for sex in terms of their mind. They want sex, but they can't physically get it up for whatever reason, right? They can't get an erection, for example, or they get it infrequently, right? So that is impotency. Some people have had an accident, they can't have sex. Some people have got an illness, a pain condition, for example, that stops them having sex. So those people deserve love just as much as anyone else in the world. But with the stereotypical relationship model in the world, it's all about you have to have sex in order to be in a romantic relationship, for example. If you're not having sex, it's not a real relationship. Well, some people can't physically have sex. And those people deserve to have someone that will have a relationship with them without sex and still love them without that. So thank God for asexuals, yeah? Thank God that asexuality exists that can give these people hope that there is someone for them, although the mindset might be completely different, because someone who can't have sex because of a physical disability, a condition, an ailment, an illness, or impotency, the mindset of that person is going to be different usually to someone asexual, because a lot of people that can't have sex, they still want it. They still feel a need for it and an urge for it, but they can't have it, so it makes them frustrated, Whereas an asexual person isn't repressing or suppressing, and they're not holding anything back, and they're not restricting themselves or being restricted involuntarily as people who have a disability that stops them from having sex are. So it's difficult, isn't it, for those people, because they get very frustrated, a lot of them, and they might start resenting not having sex and stuff, even though if they had a good mindset and a positive attitude towards it, they'd be thinking, oh, an asexual person, I can be loved without sex, amazing. But you've got to also navigate the idea that a person in that situation who can't have sex for another reason, even though they're not asexual, they might be too frustrated in their mind to actually get on well with an asexual person. They might not understand asexuality still, because they might be going, well, you're choosing not to have sex. I don't have a choice. I've got a disability. That's not what asexuality is about. Asexuality isn't a choice. And if someone's a sex repulsed asexual, it's not a choice they've made. It's the way they are wired. And so if a sexual person who can't have sex is saying, well, I can't have sex, they're feeling really frustrated, they might resent the asexual person for thinking the asexual person can choose to have sex or not, whereas they've got no choice because they're disabled. But the people that are asexual, that are sex repulsed, they don't want sex. If someone was to have sex with them, it would most likely be sexual abuse. Or basically coerced sex, pressured into it because of the expectations of the partner when really they don't want to do it, right? I'm talking about the asexuals that are sex repulsed, not the asexuals that are sex positive that do have sex, or sex neutral that do have sex, right? Because there are some asexuals that don't mind having sex. They might like the physical experience despite not experiencing the sexual attraction. So every asexual person is different, but it's important to have asexual books that explain asexuality, especially in real life contexts, so that people can understand how asexuality works on a real fundamental real life basis. I hope that makes sense. So I think it's important to learn from someone who is asexual about asexuality, who understands it from an insider perspective, and also is in other asexual groups and forums with other asexuals, which I am, for example. So I hope this has given you some valuable insights into why it's important to have asexual books. Obviously, the more we spread awareness of asexuality, the more we can spread compassion and understanding, the more asexuals can come out thinking, well, there's so much talk about asexuality these days that it's safe to come out because more and more people will know about it. And to educate people who are working directly with a lot of people that might be asexual, or they might come to them for help, but everyone in the world might know an asexual person and not realize it, because like I said, a recorded 1% of the population is asexual. That's 1 in every 100. Just think of a concert you might have been to, a theatre performance. How many people in that? Hundreds, sometimes thousands. Gone to a football game. Think of all the thousands of people at football games. Think of all the places you've been which have got over 100 people attending. There's likely to be a number of asexuals in those people, mixed in with them, that you don't even know about. A lot of asexuals are what I call underground. There are people that are among you, are among heterosexuals in their life, and they don't even realize that this person's asexual because they're too scared of saying it to you. And you don't want your friends or family or relations to be scared to talk to you. You want to have understanding, love and compassion for who they are, regardless of whether they want sex or not. What does it matter? If they're a kind, caring person, but they don't want sex, then what does it matter they don't want sex? It's just their makeup, the way they're wired differently to you. And actually, it can open up an interesting discussion when you've got people from different sexualities. It can make life more interesting because it's a different perspective than what you're used to. If we keep having the same people in life and always focusing on just the exact same things, we don't have any fresh perspectives in our life doesn't feel enriched. It feels a bit like Groundhog Day. And so by having some insider knowledge about asexuality, you're actually expanding your own knowledge, and particularly about types of attractions. Asexuals experience different types of attractions, but our sexual orientation is not based on sexual attraction. So we could experience ascetic attraction, romantic attraction, closed attraction, spiritual attraction. And obviously other sexual orientations can experience these attractions as well. But usually, for example, most heterosexuals would just clump everything together as attraction, most likely sexual attraction, right? They don't separate all these different types of attractions. But when you separate different types of attractions, you can then begin to understand your relationship with different types of people in the world, whether this is a work situation, whether this is with a friend, whether this is with a family member. You can begin to understand yourself better. So this is why it's imperative that people understand asexuality. We have asexual books and other things, and as well for, like I mentioned earlier, about the dating scene. Because if you just think that everyone where you're at, say you're at like multiple dating sites, if you just think everyone on there wants sex, and you spend your time talking to people who don't want sex, and you could not live without sex, you're wasting your time. Similarly, asexuals are wasting their time if someone is saying they could live without sex and they can't, and they're just pretending they can to get an asexual person interested in them. You're just wasting each other's time, right? And if you aren't open to hearing different people's perspective, you're very shut off to that, or you make people be wrong for not wanting sex, then you just end up in conversations, for example, asexuals, where you're both not happy, and that's no good for either of you. So the more you know about asexuality, the more that you can understand different people's behavior. There are some people that I might come across that I might think, oh, the way they're behaving or the way they're talking about sex and relationships, I think it's possible they might be asexual because of the way they are describing their relationship, or they're disinterested in sex and things like this. So it's very insightful, you know. Having more knowledge is an empowering, enriching experience for yourself. And it's important to understand different people and the way they work, because it makes for a better world as well. And I really want to encourage people to make this world a better place, you know. We don't want to be having hatred towards each other. We want to be having acceptance and love and understanding and compassion. You know, I know some people really love sex. They enjoy it a lot, right? But there's equally some people who hate sex, who don't enjoy it, don't like it, don't want it, don't need it, and don't even want to ever try it. And no, a person doesn't have to try sex to know they don't want it. Just like a lesbian doesn't have to have sex with a guy to know she's a lesbian. You know, we don't have to try everything. There's some things in life that people know they don't want to eat. They just hate the smell of it. They hate the sight of it. They hate the touch of it. And they're like, I don't want that anywhere near me. You know, for some asexuals, that is exactly what sex is like. They don't want it anywhere near them. Some asexuals actually throw up when they have sex or have to do sexual stuff. It physically makes them sick. That's how bad it is for some asexuals. And it's important you know these things, because knowledge is personal power, and it's power as in the collective power as well. So anyway, I would encourage you to get a copy of Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual Book, 78 Life as to Asexual Life. These will impact your life in a good way, regardless of your sexual orientation. And Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, A Celebration of Asexual Diversity. These are both best-selling books on Amazon. You can just type in Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories in Amazon, or Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual. These will come up, but also they're in the description. Usually my videos come up with a description. If they're not in the description, I'm going to be putting them in the description afterwards anyway. So yes, and you can get these from, particularly this one's been out longer. You can get this from Waterstones, Blackwell's, Barnes and Noble. It's even on the Walmart website. So yeah, and order it from all good bookshops. So yeah, anyway, thank you for joining me. Thanks to everyone in chat. If I haven't said hello to everyone in chat tonight, I do apologize. When I was doing the unboxing of the printer, I couldn't see the chat, and it goes so fast sometimes that I can't acknowledge everyone, but I appreciate you being here. Lots of love. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found some funny bits, some entertaining bits, some lovely serious bits, some educational bits, and some very informational bits. This channel is all about asexuality. It's asexual entertainment, information, education. I also do lifestyle vlogs as well. So it's all about asexuality, asexual life, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in your own life journey. So subscribe and hit the bell icon if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon on the next video live stream. Lots of love, take care, and I'll see you soon. Stay ace.